I'm Claire, 27, and I live in the old Victorian house my grandparents built at the edge of a quiet tree-lined street. The place has been in our family for generations, a brick and timber reminder of everything stable in a neighborhood that keeps changing. My parents travel a lot, so I've been the one paying the utility bills, arranging repairs, and keeping the big garden alive. 2 months ago, I spent nearly every spare dollar fixing a sagging section of the roof and planting a fresh round of perennials along the front path. The garden finally looks the way I imagined, a mix of native flowers and carefully shaped hedges that frame the porch in color. I made those improvements because my parents always told me I could stay as long as I wanted, that this house would always be a safe place. One Wednesday evening, I came home from a long day at the landscape office and found a glossy stack of real estate brochures spread across the dining table. Photos of modern downtown condos stared back at me, all glass and steel. The top one had a handwritten note clipped to it. Appointment with agent Friday, 3 p.m. I stared at it for a long minute, convinced it had to be for someone else. That night, over dinner, my parents dropped their plan as if it were nothing. They talked about selling the house, said they wanted to simplify and enjoy a city lifestyle. They spoke about it like they were discussing a vacation, not the home I maintain and love. I offered to sign a lease and pay rent, but they brushed it off with a casual "too complicated" and moved on to talk about their next trip. The next morning, I stepped outside to water the garden and met Mrs. Dalton, who runs the neighborhood watch. She noticed the papers in my hand and asked if we were selling. When I explained, her face tightened. She said a developer had been sniffing around the area, buying old houses to tear down for multi-unit apartments. She also mentioned that some of the homes here might qualify for historic preservation if someone applied. I walked through the garden later, phone in hand, taking photos of every corner I'd restored. The idea of someone ripping out these old maples or replacing the stained glass windows made my stomach twist. I sent a message to Mara, my closest friend since college and a paralegal who knows her way around property law. She called back right away and told me to start gathering every receipt for repairs and every bank transfer I'd made to keep the place running. That weekend, a few neighbors dropped by to see the progress in the yard. I mentioned the possible sale and watched their expressions harden. Mr. Ruiz from across the street suggested reaching out to the Historical Preservation Board. Mrs. Dalton offered to introduce me to a council member who cared about protecting older homes. Someone else proposed turning the upcoming Spring Garden Festival into a rallying point to show off the house's character. While everyone shared ideas, I overheard my parents on a phone call in the next room. My mother was laughing about a luxury condo with a skyline view, not a simpler life like they'd told me. That detail changed everything. If this wasn't about downsizing, it was about trading up and leaving me to scramble. I spent that night on my laptop, reading city ordinances. I found a section describing how a pending landmark application could temporarily block any sale or demolition. It would mean paperwork, inspections, and a lot of community support, but it was possible. I printed every guideline, highlighting deadlines and required evidence. By Sunday evening, the plan started to take shape. I organized a folder with receipts for the roof repair, garden expenses, and monthly utilities I'd been paying. I copied the real estate brochures and the note about the agent's appointment. I saved text messages from my parents where they acknowledged my financial help over the years. At dinner, my parents made another casual comment about meeting the realtor. I asked again if we could work out a rental agreement. They dismissed the idea, saying it would scare off buyers. My father said, "You're too attached to this place," as if caring about the home was a flaw. I didn't argue. Instead,